What's up, Internet, and happy E3. So I'm going to run through all of the conferences as much as I saw of them. I saw pretty much 90% of all of them, and touch on what I maybe didn't like too much about certain conferences, and really just talk about the games that interested me the most, rather than try to cover everything. So this is completely unscripted. So if I repeat myself or stutter, please forgive me here. So, let's go ahead and start off with the first one that I saw, which was the EA conference. Now, what really bugged me the most about the EA conference is that, oh boy, we're going to see new Star Wars stuff. So you see maybe a second and a half of footage at a time, and then maybe like a second or 2 seconds of concept art, and then you spend like 2 minutes watching a developer sit in front of a computer working on a game with his voiceover telling you how much he loves his work. That's just, I mean, it's E3, so I guess this is where you do it, but at the same time, I just don't care. In a lot of ways, I feel like this is almost like some sort of passive-aggressive way for EA to say, hey guys, look, these people like working here. Stop fucking voting us as the evilest corporation in the United States, please. Look, they like it here. They like it here. And I also like the fact that these guys are all working in offices that clearly look like CEOs' offices that they cleared all the CEOs' crap out of to make it look like some sort of a work desk station area, where in reality, those guys are all stuck in the basement. So, that said, of the EA stuff, the two things that really stuck out to me were, first of all, the Star Wars stuff. I'm a huge Star Wars fan. I love Star Wars. So the Star Wars stuff was the stuff I wanted to see the most. So, of course, it disappointed the hell out of me when I didn't get to see very much of it. But the little I did get to see intrigued me. I want to see all of this stuff more. I really kind of lost my shit a little bit when they showed that guy wearing the VR helmet, because I'm telling you, if that game looks good enough, that is going to make me, have the argument with my wife for why we need to spend an insane amount of money on a piece of VR equipment so that I can play fucking Star Wars in VR. But I mean, all of it looked interesting. I'm looking forward to checking it all out. But again, there just wasn't much to go on because they didn't show very much other than these people telling you how much they love their jobs. The next thing they showed that I liked was the Mass Effect Andromeda. Again, very little was shown, but what little they showed, it looks really nice. I'm really looking forward to checking that out. I've personally enjoyed all the other Mass Effect games, so I can't help but have this on my radar, and nothing that they showed or nothing that they didn't show didn't make me feel like I didn't want to play this game. So that was pretty much it for me on the EA conference. The next up that I've got here is going to be the UBISOFT conference. Now, what bugged me about the Ubisoft conference was they slowed theirs down with having those couch interviews. And for the most part, the couch interviews were unnecessary. I appreciated the ones that had Matt Stone and Trey Parker. I appreciated the one that had LeVar Burton because I'm fans of South Park and Star Trek, but I didn't see them as really necessary. I felt like they slowed it down unnecessarily. But that's really all I had against the Ubisoft conference. In terms of the games they had that looked interesting to me, you can't not love the South Park Fractured Butthole. I mean, that's hilarious. If you're not a South Park fan, fine, I give it to you. It's not that great, but I am a South Park fan more or less, and I enjoyed that first game, and I really like how this one sort of continues on. I like the mild differences. I like how they're doing sort of the Mega Man, what was it, the Mega Man Battle Network, wasn't it, for the Game Boy Advance? That kind of style of gameplay for the RPG elements. I thought that was a neat little way of creating more action to make it feel more superhero-ish. The Star Trek VR Bridge Crew. Again, sci-fi fan, Star Trek fan. I really like this idea. I am afraid that it's not going to be worth $60, so if they try to drop like full price on you on this one, I'm not buying it. I guess it depends on how much there really is in the game, but that is definitely something that is on my radar, and I am definitely going to be keeping an eye on and hoping that comes up to be something cool. For Honor. For Honor. Does anybody else call this the USA version of Dynasty Warriors? It looks cool. It's totally Dynasty Warriors. The enemies look about as smart as they are in Dynasty Warriors. The major difference being, after I've never been a fan of Dynasty Warriors, I did like Hyrule Warriors for the Wii U, so that game sort of got me acclimated and familiar with how those games work. I noticed this game basically looked like they said, what the problem with Dynasty Warriors is that there's any strategy involved at all. So let's just get rid of that and turn it into a straight action game. So I don't know if I necessarily agree with that, but again, it's early. We'll see how that pans out. The graphics, of course, are nice, but that's sort of a moot point nowadays. So many games look so nice. But again, I kind of like the idea. I really like the trailer they showed. It looked neat. The gameplay itself, though, like I said, it just looks sort of like Dynasty Warriors minus the strategy. So we'll see. We'll see. We'll just leave it at that. Okay, what else we got on this list for them? Okay, we've got Trials of the Blood Dragon, I think it's called. My writing is terrible here because I was trying to write things on a piece of paper with a sloppy pen while I watched. Trials of the Blood Dragon, the game itself doesn't look that great to me, but holy fucking shit, watch that trailer. That trailer is as much ridiculous 80s nostalgia psychosis that you could possibly throw at somebody in 30 seconds or a minute or however long that trailer is. So just, I don't even know if the game will be any good. Just that trailer is worth watching just because it is so effing hilarious. So maybe take a look at that. And then the last one, it's worth mentioning, Watch Dogs 2. I live very near the Bay Area, so well, not very near, but close enough that I go there semi-often. And so it's always nice to see a game that uses a location that you're familiar with. I like how they showed the mission structure. I thought that was interesting. Whether or not it's any good, of course, we'll see. I feel like Watch Dogs is in sort of the same boat that Assassin's Creed 2 was in. Assassin's Creed. See, Assassin's Creed was the same thing. Assassin's Creed was a very interesting idea that fell flat because it was a little overly ambitious in the amount of time they had to develop it, because Ubisoft is very much has that corporate sort of structure where it's like this game needs to come out at a certain time. So that game definitely felt like it could have used more time in the development to make it a better game, but it didn't get it. And then Assassin's Creed 2 really took everything that they had developed and learned from the first one and blew it up and made it actually an excellent game. So I'm kind of having high hopes for Watch Dogs 2 that this will be sort of the same situation. So that's it for those two guys. The next coming up, I gotta say, was the Microsoft conference. Now, the Microsoft conference was better than the EA and the Ubisoft ones. The only problem that I have with the Microsoft conference is, again, they kind of paced it. They slowed it down with a lot of the talking. They added, like, commercials, basically, for, like, the Xbox One Slim, the Project Scorpio, and the controller customization. I give them a pass for the Scorpio because that's sort of a major deal, but the Slim and the controller, I don't feel like it was necessary to spend as much time as they did on those. I think they could have covered that a little quicker, but again, we're sort of getting spoiled at this point now that we've finally got these guys to go away from the whole, now look at these graphs and pictures of stock models pretending like they know how to play video games and be happy. Now that we've gotten away with that, we expect even more from them to move along. So for all intents and purposes, it wasn't that bad in terms of dragging. My biggest problem with the Microsoft press conference was them doing that stupid audience reaction camera. It was the worst idea ever. Like, you're pulling back and showing me the backs of a bunch of people. How the fuck am I supposed to tell how these people are reacting if I'm seeing their asses, okay? People's asses don't light up when they're happy, all right? Plus, on top of that, the room is dark so people can see the giant screen. So all I'm seeing is dark mass of people doing nothing. That's so dumb. And you usually do it right when something big is supposed to happen on the screen so we can see everybody react to what's happening on the screen. But that means we don't get to see what happens on the screen because you're trying to show us the backs of people that are completely dark. So that's just terrible. And also, it detracted from being able to see the game. A perfect example of this was when they showed off Tekken 7. They showed the CG of Tekken 7, and then there was this sort of they were showing off how they show you CG and then it switches right into the fight, like when you fight right after in the CG, which is a really cool idea, but you don't get to see it happen because they switch out to see the people, the backs of nobody, basically, right when you're supposed to see the switch off, and that really pissed me off. So I'm like, wait, no, I want to see the actual gameplay, and you're cutting away from the screen on the gameplay. What the hell are you doing? So that was really annoying. Also, a lot of CG trailers this time around. Not as much gameplay as you would like, but that's fine. That's fine. That's how these go sometime. But I definitely, something worth noting. So now, in terms of the games on the MS Microsoft, there are only a few. I like the fact that their games are on Windows 10 now, so now I don't have to have an Xbox One, which I absolutely will not buy, to get any games that I think look good that are only going to be on Microsoft's system. So now I'm just waiting for them to amass enough games to make me feel like it's worth actually going through the headache of upgrading my computer to Windows 10. I'm perfectly happy with 7, as a lot of people are. So, once they get enough games out there, I will eventually do it. And the ones they've got that I'm looking interested in, unfortunately for them, only one, I believe, is Microsoft exclusive. So first of all, Cuphead. Cuphead looks awesome. I don't need to tell you guys about Cuphead. Everybody knows about Cuphead. If you're a Contra fan, if you're a 2D side-scroller shooter fan, if you're an animation fan of any kind, this game looks absolutely stunning. It looks like it's going to be a ton of fun. Can't wait for it. Next up, again, I don't think this is a Microsoft exclusive, but they showed it at their conference, so of course I'm going to talk about it. We Happy Few. That game looked really interesting to me. I really liked... it was one of those things where they were showing that intro gameplay, and it's like, okay, is this going to suck me in? Is this going to make me interested? Is the story going to be boring? Is it going to look boring or whatnot? This is the kind of thing that it sucked me in. I really liked the sort of it was kind of like how BioShock sort of took that 40s, 50s American motif. This one's sort of taking like that British 40s, 50s motif. And I really like it. I think it's cool. I thought it was really creepy. I like the idea of like choosing to take your drugs or not and having the world kind of, you know, get fucking weird as shit on you when you stop taking your drugs. I'm really curious to see more about that game. I think that the story could be very interesting. Obviously, a game can show you some really interesting stuff like that at the beginning, and then, you know, kind of fall from there. Like, you get this really hyped beginning, and you're like, wow, this is so weird and interesting, and then it becomes monotonous and boring afterwards. So I definitely want to see more about that. So that's one that's on my radar for sure. And then the last one I got on my list is, from what I understand, a Microsoft exclusive, and just because of the pedigree of the people involved, I can't ignore this game. It's called ReCore. So ReCore is a game made by Keiji Inafune, who is known for the old Mega Man games. I believe he was responsible for the Resident Evil games. He definitely is a guy who knows what he's doing when it comes to making good games. Shit on Mighty Number 9 all you want. I've played the game. You can check my channel and see the playthrough I have of the backer demo. It was fun. It was exactly what I expected. It was a Mega Man, like a Mega Man-esque game that controlled and felt just like a Mega Man game without the wall jumping, and if for whatever reason it didn't give you any sub-weapons when you killed bosses, but I think that was just because they want to save that for the final game. So he definitely knows his stuff. The guy's got a pedigree. And then the people developing the game for him are a large chunk of the core talent from the folks that made Metroid Prime, one of the best games of that generation. I mean, I loved Metroid Prime. I thought that game was, I mean, it blew me away. Like everybody else, I was severely underwhelmed by the idea that they were turning Metroid Prime into a third-person game, much less a FPS-style first-person game, but I was just blown away by everything that they did with that game. So with this company and the way the game looks, I'm really curious to try this out. And if it remains a Microsoft exclusive, that is one of the few games that could start mounting on me to make me want to get Microsoft's Windows 10 for my computer. So we'll see. So that's pretty much all there was of the Microsoft conference that really spoke out to me. Again, you know, I'm not shitting on anything else. I'm just passing it over because I don't feel like going over every single game. If I'm not talking about a game that you like, talk about it in the comments. I'd love to hear what you have to say. But these are the games that really stood out to me personally. And then we'll go ahead and cover Sony's conference. Now, Sony's conference, again, I am not going to lie to you guys. As much as I've been mainly focusing on fighting games and, you know, talk about my old school arcade roots and FGC, etc., I am a hardcore Nintendo fan. I have been for a very long time. I've had every system they've ever come out with, minus the Virtual Boy. That was the one that I was able to rent and go, yeah, no. Other than that, I've owned everything they've ever made. I love their work. I'm a huge Nintendo fan. That said, I'm sorry, man, Sony's conference was where it's at, man. It was just, here's a huge fucking game that you've all been waiting for, and then game. Guy walks out, hey guys, thanks for showing up. We love you. Isn't this great? Don't you love having the live music? Game. Guy walks out, yeah, so this is gonna be great. We're gonna show you some more stuff. Let me introduce you to this guy. Hi everybody, check this out. Game. It was amazing. Like, I couldn't believe how much crap they got through in the time that they had. So, that said, let's go through the games. God of War, top of the list. God of War 3 was the main reason I chose to buy a PS3 over an Xbox 360 back in the day. I never owned a PS2. And a friend of mine let me come over to his house and try God of War, and that was the only game. I know you guys will probably be shocked for me to say this, but that was, God of War 1 and 2 were the only games that made me really wish I had a PS2. They were so good. I just couldn't get enough of them. So, you know, it should come as no surprise that the remaster that they made were like the first games I bought for my PS3, and I played the holy shit out of them. I got the Platinum Trophy for both of those. I just love those games, and God of War 3 I loved. And then from there it all went downhill. Like the PSP ones were very borderline, and then Ascension, in my personal opinion, was absolute garbage. They just totally messed it up. I don't want to get into all the details of why, because that's not what this video is about. But then they come up with a new one, which apparently is just called God of War, just to make things, you know, nice and confusing. So I'm really torn with this game because it's not God of War. It's not. I mean, play a God of War game for 10 minutes and then watch that trailer and explain to me how that exactly is God of War. Yet at the same time, it looks really good and I really want to play it. So I'm definitely not poo-pooing on it. I'm just saying I was disappointed that, oh, this really isn't God of War, but at the same time I'm going, this looks really cool, man. So I mean, I'm definitely going to be there to try this game out. It looks too good to pass up, but it doesn't look like God of War, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing. Again, being an old school Nintendo fan, I'm used to people doing things like giving me Zelda 2. Holy shit, what the hell is this? This is nothing like Zelda 1. What is this game? But that doesn't mean it's a bad game. It just means it's totally different. Let's try something different. It doesn't have to be exactly the same every time to be good. So yeah, I'm definitely going to check that out. So Days Gone. Now, Days Gone at first sort of got me with the trailer. I was kind of interested in it. I like the whole, human aspect of sort of survival in this post-apocalyptic world that looks like it's something out of The Last of Us minus, any weirdness going on. So I thought it was kind of an interesting idea. Then at the end of the conference, they showed the gameplay, and it turned into fucking World War Z, and I just completely turned off of that game, and it dropped completely off my radar. No offense to people who think that stuff's cool. I'm just fucking over it. I'm just over it. I thought World War Z was comically redonkulous. Like, to me, when they do that stuff with zombies and turn them into like the cartoon bees from Bugs Bunny cartoons, it's just comical to me. It's just dumb. It's just silly. Like when he was up at the top of that thing and they were all swarming towards him, I was just waiting for them to turn into a giant hand, pluck him off the top of that thing and throw him into a tree. I mean, it's just, I don't know. That just kind of killed it for me. I was interested in something a little bit more realistic, and then it turned into World War Z, and I was just done. So that was kind of unfortunate, but I'm sure there are people who are going to love that, and that's cool. More power to you. Last Guardian. You can't not talk about Last Guardian. I really like how in this trailer they showed that it's going to be a little bit more heart-wrenching than they showed in the earlier trailers that seemed a little bit more carefree and fluttery and happy. This one truly showed that there's going to be some heart-wrenching stuff going on in that game. It looks really nice. The graphics aren't super amazing, but they're good enough. And again, a lot of graphics to me is style. Like, I still to this day really like the graphics of World of Warcraft, even though they're like a million years old, because of the art style. Again, a lot of it is the art style, and I do like the art style of this game. I think it's a very interesting looking game, and I like how they gave us the release date finally, October 26, 2025. I can't wait. So next up, Horizon. And I know I said 2025. I'm being an asshole because they've been delaying this game forever. So yeah, 2025. Called it here first at Overheats Game Time. You're welcome. So Horizon. Horizon looks really interesting. I like the robot monsters. This is something that hasn't really been done before. I think it's really interesting, kind of what Recore is doing. The designs look a little bit more complex, but different game and different system. But I like the way it looks. I think it's very interesting. The only thing that's starting to worry me about this list is I'm starting to feel a lot of open world games, and I don't have that much time, so let's close up the worlds a little bit, guys. But yeah, I mean, the graphics looked really good in it. The ideas behind it looked really interesting. It's definitely something that is more on my radar than it was before. Before, it was just sort of a pretty looking game, and now it's more like, this kind of looks awesome. Okay, so let's moving on. So then there was the Detroit game. I forget the whole name of it. I don't have it written down here. It's by the guy. Oh, Become Human, I believe it is. Detroit Become Human. It's made by the guy who did Heavy Rain. And just like Heavy Rain, I have this high on my radar because it looks like a very interesting idea. I like the whole choose your own adventure style of it. Heavy Rain, however, I never finished. I was really stoked for that game. I got it, and I played through the beginning of it and thought it was really awesome, and then it just got kind of boring to me, and the whole detective aspect felt very... it was just really rote. It was really... boring, and it became monotonous, and it just sort of like made me have less fun with the game, and I just sort of got bored with it, and I quit playing it even though I was interested in the story. So I definitely is not an instant buy, but I am definitely interested in it because it does look fascinating. I suggest checking out the trailer if you want to know what the hell I'm talking about, because it definitely gives you a very good idea. It gives you the trailer is very smart. It gives you an incredibly diverse vertical slice of one section of the game, just to give you, it's almost like if you were to play a choose your own adventure book, if you even know what those are, if you don't Google it, if you were to play a choose your own adventure game or choose your own adventure book, and the way they sold you on the book was by saying, okay, so here on page 7 you read that passage and you see your 3 different choices you can make, and then they pull those pages out and show you what happens if you pick those 3, and then show you that there's 2 here, 1 here, 2 here, and then they pull out those 2 pages, that 1 page, those 2 pages to see what would even happen on top of those original 3 choices you made, and they kept going all the way down the line to show you, like, from one choice that you make on the first page, this amount of things can happen from, these couple of different choices. So they do a really, really good job of kind of showing off what, how that works. And the whole detective aspect seems to return, but it looks a lot more fluid and interesting, so hopefully the whole game pans out better than Heavy Rain, and that's definitely something that's on my list. So Resident Evil 7. Resident Evil, whatever they're calling it. Resident Evil 7 looks really interesting. They're definitely taking it back to the roots. They're making it scary again, it looks like anyways. The fact that it's VR is actually what put it on my list for me. I'm not a huge survival horror fan. I did not like the original Resident Evil, wasn't a fan of 2 or 3. 4 I liked because I thought it struck a really good balance between action and horror, and then 5 and 6 went too far into the action category and the story got too convoluted and silly. But 7 looks like it's kind of returning to the roots a little bit. And again, like I said, it's the VR element that kind of makes me the most interested for this, and the pedigree of what a Resident Evil game can be. So that's one that's definitely on my list. X-Wing VR mission. Star Wars VR. Do I really need to say anything else? Are you fucking kidding me? Flying around in an X-Wing in VR? Yeah, I'm sold. Like right there, that's it. The only problem that I have with this is it's called X-Wing VR Mission. So I'm kind of worried that it's not really going to be much of an experience. If it's going to be a full game, that could make me want to get Sony VR or some sort of VR to be able to play this game. If it's just a single mission, if it's like some $10, $20 game or bundled with Battlefield 2 or whatever, then I'm going to be much less interested in it. I never thought I would say this, but Call of Duty Infinite Warfare. I do not give a flying shit about Call of Duty games. No offense, Call of Duty players. If you love the game, awesome for you. I just never give a shit about those games. This one, I didn't even fucking realize it was Call of Duty until the Call of Duty logo popped up at the end of the goddamn trailer. I was like, dude, this shit's amazing. But part of it threw me for a loop because Sony said, check out these games that are coming for VR, and they never made a distinct end to that sizzle reel. So I assumed we were still watching a game that was going to be in VR, and I was having my mind fucked. I was like, are you kidding me? This is VR? Dude, I am buying Sony VR for this game. I am strapping a bucket to my head so that I don't puke all over my room and keep it in the bucket while I play this, because I am playing this in VR. But then I started to wonder when I saw it was Call of Duty. I'm like, oh, wait a minute, is this really going to be VR? You know, so, but again, the trailer itself was fan-fucking-tastic. The whole flying around in a ship, jumping out on board of the deck. I mean, if you haven't seen the trailer for Call of Duty Infinite Warfare and you're a sci-fi fan, check that shit out. The melee attacks were fucking amazingly brutal for outer space. It was just so cool, man. Like, again, I'm not a Call of Duty fan, but that trailer was badass. Death Stranding. I mean, you can't not talk about the Kojima game, right? Like, he's finally, got the fuck out of the death knells of Konami and joined up with Sony, and that's fucking awesome for him. That's a great place for him to be. The style of games he makes, like, as much as I would love for him to have gone to Nintendo, it just makes more sense for him to go to Sony. The style of games he makes are much more along the lines of the stuff that Sony does, so it doesn't surprise me at all. The fact that he has the guy from The Walking Dead, what's his name, Cletus something, I don't know, I don't care. I don't watch Walking Dead, so it's not that big of a sell to me. I was definitely impressed with the model. I mean, I knew who it was as soon as I saw the face. I was like, wow, that looks really nice. So if that's actually gameplay versus, or, if that's actually in-game versus CG, of course, is one of those things that's becoming a blurred line nowadays. But regardless, I thought the idea was really interesting. He was doing that whole Arnold Schwarzenegger Jr. thing where he had like the fake umbilical cord attached to the baby into him, and then he had the cesarean section scars on his stomach. I thought, and then if you notice, all the dead animals all seem to have wires coming out of them. That's very interesting. The name is very Japanesey, Death Stranding. That's pretty silly. But I'm definitely interested in checking it out. So that's one that, just based on its very short trailer and the fact that we're talking about Kojima, definitely is on my radar. I want to check that out. And then the last one on my list is the Spider-Man game, dude. Okay, so it's the original Spider-Man game on PlayStation 1 I didn't care too much for. Spider-Man 2 on PS2/GameCube, which is the system I played it on, I played the holy living crap out of that. I do not even wish to tell you guys how many balloons of children that I saved in that fucking game, man. Like, I love Spider-Man 2. Spider-Man 3, in my opinion, dropped the ball because they got rid of the dual swing mechanic, which I felt was what made Spider-Man 2 feel so good, was that, you had the left swing and the right swing and you had to think about where you were swinging. And in Spider-Man 3, they fucked it all up and just made one button swing, which is actually one of the reasons I actually got that on the Wii U, because the because the Wii version gave the waggle on left and right. So you had your left and right back again, but the graphics are just so terrible and the game was just so boring that I didn't end up playing it for very long. The most recent Spider-Man games, I got into them for a little bit because it had been a while since I played a Spider-Man game. But again, they really felt like the originals, where it was like, this clearly could have been a great game, but it was cut short because it had to come out for the movie, and that was a real bummer. This game is being made by Insomniac, which has made some of my favorite games on PS3, so I am super stoked for the fact of the pedigree of the developer there. And on top of that, we're talking about a game that's not focusing on the movie, which means there's no cutoff for this. They can work as long as they need to on it to make it a good game. I cannot fucking wait. I just hope they get the swinging mechanics right. There needs to be a left and right swing. If you want to make like something in the options that gives you like dumbass swing and I'm fucking Spider-Man swing, then I want that. I want there to be like a three-way toggle. I'm a dumbass swing, and you can just push one button and you go nuts. You want I played Spider-Man 2 and think I know something swing, which gives you the left and right swing. And then I want the I'm fucking Spider-Man bitch level of swing that gives you physics and makes you make sure that you have buildings in the right spots, so that you really need to know the layout of the city and you need to understand how swinging works to be able to do it right. And again, swinging doesn't have to be completely perfect, but good enough that you really feel like once you get the hang of it that you're swinging through a city like motherfucking Spider-Man. I cannot wait. Of course, like everybody else in the world, I'm not too hot on the whole white Spider-Man symbol on his chest. I think that's a little unnecessary. I think it stands out a little too much. I'm sure that's the point. I just hope that they have alternate costumes, because usually what I do in those games is the first thing I do is I go straight for classic and I get that classic costume, and then that's what I play the game as. So hopefully, you know, they have that option. Hopefully they have it early on in the game. So those are the games that I'm looking forward to that they showed at the PS3 conference. And the reason this video is delayed a little bit is because I wanted to watch the Nintendo conference. The Nintendo conference. So, what conference? There was no conference. What do you even want to say? Like, there was no conference. They showed a Zelda trailer, which looked solid, and they showed and then they showed Pokemon for half an hour. And I'm not a huge Pokemon fan, but I do like the series. I have played several of the series. I probably played 60% of the games that have come out in the core series. And it looks good, you know, it looks interesting. Unfortunately, I did play X and Y, and I tend to usually skip over a couple generations. I usually play one, skip a generation, play one, skip a couple generations, play one. That way I don't get burned out on them. So this one is sort of falling in the line of the one that I might skip. That said, it still looks really solid. The only problem I had with Pokemon was that it was delaying me getting to see more Zelda. And after seeing the trailer, I was like, okay, that looks really cool. After watching the Treehouse stream for several hours, like however long it was, 2-3 hours, I was worried that, like, are you guys serious? You're really just going to do nothing but Zelda all day? Like, this is going to give me fatigue, man. Like, no one's going to be able to watch this game for that long. Holy fuck, I watched that game for the whole time. It looks amazing. I cannot wait for this game. That is a day one NX purchase for me. I hope that the graphic fidelity is better on the NX version. If it's not, I don't give a fuck. It still looks beautiful. Everything they had in the gameplay, I just loved it. The fact that you have to constantly manage weapons and steal them from enemies is sweet. I loved watching them beat up on skeletons and have the arms fly off, and watch the arm frantically try to crawl itself thing from Adam's family style back to its body. I loved watching him scoop the arm and beat the enemy to death with his own arm, then sheathe the arm and watch the arm writhe around and start trying to grope up on Link's butt. I love the fact that you wake up in some crazy like resurrection chamber and have no idea what the F is going on other than you're in your underwear. They showed the upgrade for the book that lets you levitate things Half-Life 2 style, which looked amazing. Like, oh, that treasure chest that's way up there that you can't reach, don't worry about it, just levitate it down to you. Well, you know, let's first beat an enemy over the head with it just for good measure, and then let's open it up. I love the fact that there seems to be a rather in-depth crafting system. So, I mean, just, dear God, that game looks so sweet. I was super worried about Nintendo only showing that game, and after seeing that game, that's all I can think about now. It just looks so good. And that's pretty much it for Nintendo, obviously, right? They've only got 2 damn games, so that was my big one. To go ahead and continue on the Nintendo thing, they could have showed the Metroid game for the 3DS, but that game has gotten such bad word of mouth from gamers. Like, the only way they should show that game is if they have a lot to show to really try to drive home the point to people. Hey, this is a game that's not blowing ass. Like, stop being assholes. Check it out. It's good. And they clearly don't have anything for it yet, so they're letting it, you know, kind of rest on the back burners, and that makes sense. The same thing with the Mario Color Splash. Like, the Paper Mario series has sort of had a decline in the gamers' favors. And so I understand, again, you don't want to just throw out another trailer of that game to make people piss on it more. You don't want to show it unless you have something really solid to show to say, hey man, this is what this game is, give it a chance, check it out, this is what it's got. They're just focusing everything on Zelda, and right now I feel like that's probably the right choice. So that's my overall impressions of what really stood out to me among all the conferences. I'll probably be doing an E3 wrap-up episode after E3 is done, just to let you guys know what may have popped up that I didn't know about, or what may have changed my mind about something for better or for worse. So yeah, I mean, happy E3, you guys. What do you guys think? Do you disagree or agree with any of my takes on any of this stuff? You know, what did you like? What did you think looked really interesting? Do you feel like I missed something? Because there's a lot of shit there, man. I tried my best to watch all of it, but I probably saw about 90% of all the conferences, so there was probably a few things I may have missed here and there. You think I missed something obvious? Let me know. Take care, Internet. Johnny, bye-bye.